For example 6, we need to be a little bit careful about the input of our function. With the input, we notice that we have, let's compare this to the general form, y equals c plus a times cosine, and then our input bracket b x minus d bracket. We notice that we do not have a vertical shift, so we want to be careful there. It is being multiplied times the front of the function, and that affects the amplitude, not the vertical shift. So there's no vertical shift. The amplitude then is the number multiplied times the front of the function. That's going to be the absolute value of -2, which is 2. Now remember that that negative does affect the graph. Because it's going to flip our graph upside down. So cosine will look something like this when we go to graph it. The phase shift, we want to be careful about the phase shift. You notice that the general form of the function is written with a b factored out of the parentheses. And the period and the phase shift are two separate things and should be considered separately. Well, here it looks like the 3 got multiplied into the parentheses. So we're going to separate, we're going to factor out a 3. So we're going to divide by 3, divide by 3. We're going to rewrite this as y equals -2 cosine, and let's put brackets there to separate. We're going to factor out a 3, which means we're going to pull a 3 to the front. That's the b. We're going to divide out by b. And what do we have left over? When we take out that factor of 3, we have x and then plus pi over 3. Now notice that if I multiply back into 3 times x is 3x. 3 times pi over 3 would give me back to pi. We want to separate the period from the phase shift. So the phase shift is actually minus pi over 3, and the period is 3. Or sorry, 3. 2 pi divided by 3. Sorry. Be careful there. The period is not 3. The period is 2 pi divided by b. b is 3. The period, though, is 2 pi divided by 3. So be careful there. So we have everything we need here. And we want to know where we start. Where's the graph start and where does it end? We're going to take the input, and here's the input of our function. Put it between 0 and 2 pi. Divide by 3. Subtract pi over 3 from all 3 parts. Minus pi over 3 is where we will start our graph, and the graph will end at pi over 3. So let's plot our points. We have minus pi over 3, positive pi over 3. This is where we start and where we end. And if the graph starts and ends at those locations, this is the same number but opposite sign, and when I add together I get 0. So directly in between these 2 points would be the y-axis. So we're going to draw in our y-axis there. What's the midpoint? These would actually be pretty easy. If I add minus pi over 3 and 0, we get minus pi over 3, and then we multiply by a half, get minus pi over 6. Same thing over here, 0 plus pi over 3, and then multiply by a half, we get positive pi over 6. Now there's no vertical shift, so the middle of our graph is on the x-axis. The amplitude is 2, so we will be going up 2 units and down 2 units from the middle of our graph. Phase shift and period are already taken care of. So now we need to remember that we are graphing cosine. And if we are graphing cosine, and our graph was flipped, we said, so remember we said our graph was flipped, then we will be starting at minus pi over 3, and we're going to go down to the minimum, going down 2 units from the middle, because of the amplitude is 2. My second point will be to the x-axis. At the third point, now we're at the max. So we're just plotting those 5 points for cosine. At pi over 6, we're down to the x-axis again, and at the last point, at that 5th point, we're down to the minimum. So here's one period of our cosine function.